Hello and welcome to the Barrcast. I'm your host, Nick Barr, coming to you on a sunny Wednesday afternoon here in San Francisco. Apologies for the nasal voice. I am recovering from a cold. Today, I want to go behind the scenes a little bit and walk through a blog post that I'm writing. So I recorded myself writing and sped it up 4x, and I'll just sort of talk through the process here. So I think it'll be about 12 minutes. I don't expect this to be an entertaining barcast. You might want to sit this barcast out. But a few people are doing this sort of project where it's live blogging or let's play blogging or Twitch blogging, etc. I thought it'd be fun to do for myself. With no further ado, let's get into it, and I'll start to sort of narrate as we go. So I'm working on kind of a concept that I call Death of the User, borrowed by Roland Barthes' Death of the Author, but I don't really know what I want to do yet. I just had this text that I just pasted in that was sort of from notes or something like that. Just this idea of like, well, why do social networks need users or user objects? Well, are we sure users are important? Are we sure we need to create user profiles? Something that I think about a lot, but I wanted to at least articulate. And so you can see there I am in the bottom left, or there I was. I just got up to make some tea. This is my apartment. I'm sitting at the dining table. And caffeine is probably the most important drug that I take to write, followed by booze, I would say. Coffee is number one, but I'm out of coffee, so I'm brewing some tea right now, which is a pretty big bummer. You might see some tortured expressions on my face throughout. We'll see. I'm curious to see what I look like writing. Oh, so I think I'm going to need to speed this up because this is just going at... Here we go. So here I am just trying to like write some other phrases that are coming to me. And I ultimately, Roland Barthes is sort of the inspiration for the post. I'm revisiting his essay. I actually, when revisiting it, I didn't find a lot of inspiration there. So I'm just like trying to find anything. I do think though, when you read these classics, I just find they're having so much fun with their writing. You know, Roland Barthes is enjoying the writing process. And I think like it's probably my biggest project right now is to actually have fun. So here's something funny. I don't think I've done this before. Really, I talk to myself a lot when I'm writing, but maybe inspired by sort of the performative aspect of streaming my writing. I'm actually in dialogue with myself here. So I'm writing, what's the point you're trying to make? And then I answer, and the person's like, sounds like you're describing a worse Instagram. So, I like having kind of a healthy debate with a skeptic. The skeptic voice is really strong in me. And actually this is kind of a cool thing that I'm doing here, which is bringing that skeptic voice out. Importantly, this is all drafty. Not even drafty. It's just the early stages of getting shit out. Right. So, there will be no final draft here. This is just kind of generation mode, but maybe we'll do another one for edit mode or polish mode. It's easy for me to write pretty fast if I let go of vocabulary. If I'm much more conversational. So that's what I'm doing here. Is I'm not trying to find the right words. I'm really trying to have a conversation with myself. Conversation and voice is, for me, the best vehicle for putting ideas out. Once I'm in writer mode, it's no bueno. And I'm not a big outline person. I don't like to I know a lot of people sort of have an outline of what they want to do or something like that. That's probably something that I should learn, and it would probably help me create more coherent arguments. But I like to write in prose. Now, I am writing first, second, finally, so clearly there's some structure to what I'm saying, but I need to write in prose. I don't know if you find this, but I find like it's a very delicate balance because you don't want to write exactly the final cut, but if it gets too sloppy, the whole thing just falls apart. There needs to be some sort of tightness to the process. It can't feel like total like dog shit. So I try to, even if I'm going to throw it away, I don't know. I try to put together something that feels like usable. I'm finally getting to the meat of it here, which is like, wait, so what? Like, why do you care about a userless experience? And I'm wading through all the stuff that's not the so what. I'm just trying to get to the nug of the point. And here, as I'm doing that, I'm like, oh fuck, like, sorry, I'm cursing so much. I don't know. Apologies to Barrcast listeners. Anyway, I realize that when I talk about like championing a userless social network, I'm stepping into the 8chan territory, which of course is particularly a bummer right now. So I'm trying to, at this point, just quickly understand what 8chan is about and what the rules and mechanics of that website are. I assume it's anonymous. I assume it's ephemeral. I assume posts expire. I assume they don't save anything to disk, but I'm just skimming here. I want to be able to at least speak to the 8chan stuff, and maybe abandon the whole project because I have no interest in going there. You know, I did find that this recording process made me a little bit more diligent than I normally would be with writing. So I'm not doing a ton of net browsing. I'm pretty focused, and that is not representative of my typical process. In fact, none of this is really typical of my regular process. I did this not to illustrate how I do it normally, but actually just to experiment and see how might my process change if I record myself. And it did change. I think for the better. Oh, big yawn there. Yeah, so I'm challenging myself like, dude, like, can you please write something exciting? And I'm struggling. And I'm slurping. This identity stuff, I mean, I've been thinking about at Ning, which was a platform for creating your own social network where you could belong to many social networks and have different identities on each. And that was a really big problem because you had one login credential, and so you had people who belonged to church groups, but then they belonged to fetish sites, and that was messy. Then I joined Canvas Networks with Chris Poole, who of course had started 4chan and had given a TED Talk about prismatic identity, which I really liked, and sort of that as the counterpart to Mark Zuckerberg's your real identity story. I've been thinking a lot about your learning identity at Khan Academy. So identity is something that I've thought a ton about. Here I'm trying to just make a small point, which is like, why do we think that users have to exist? It's interesting, but like we're like, oh, you've got a social network, so you need the user, you need my profile, you need my avatar, you need my name, etc. And like, I'm pretty sure you actually don't need that. And I'm maybe these are two different posts, but identity is also context, right? So who posted this is a big cue into whether I will like it or whether I won't like it, or whether I'll follow, whether I won't follow, whether I agree with it or whether I don't agree with it. So user identity itself is a key contextual clue, but not the only contextual clue that clouds our judgment in some ways. It's useful. Context is useful, but when context is rendered visible, that oftentimes comes at the expense of the creation and engagement with good content. So I'm poking around in that space right now. I breezed through it here, but I like this metaphor of comedians working out material, and like, yeah, just imagine poor Chris Rock, who's so famous that he literally can't work out material anymore. He'll just go to any club and everyone's immediately like, there's Chris Rock. And the poor dude cannot find out if his shit's any good. And in a way, we're all like really famous comedians. Even the least famous of us still have our 20 friends on the social network who will like everything we do. And they follow us wherever we go. We don't, that doesn't have to happen, right? There's nothing critical to that. Here, I'm just trying to find some snippet of like this movement of like, we don't call them users. Users are drug people. Like, I mean, what a joke to claim victory when we're like, hey, we stopped calling them users. Now we talk about daily average people. That's what Facebook did. They're like, we fixed it. Our daily average people number is dropping now. But my point here is it's not all on the platform. I mean, we make ourselves users as well. So overall, I think I wrote for about 48 minutes, and at this point, you know, I've written more than I will want the post to be. From here, it's just writing well and writing less and writing clearer. I do think that this is probably going to be a post, but I think this is going to be a minor post. Like, I mean, I don't have enough of a following on anything to think too deeply about these things. But basically, sometimes I tweet my stuff and sometimes I don't. And well, we'll see when I've written it, how I feel about it. But right now, I think this is a fairly like small post. I think I'm just about done. Kevin linked me to a cool Chrome extension called Blind Taste Test Twitter, which obscures all of the avatars and usernames and everything. But I wasn't able to get it to work. It's probably because Twitter just redesigned their whole site, and so I would imagine that the DOM looks totally different. For you kids at home, DOM is I don't know. Actually, I don't know what DOM stands for. It's the HTML stuff. So the whatever logic it's using to hide avatars is probably broken. DOM, the district of meta tags. I don't have the fuzziest idea of what DOM stands for. I'm trying to sort of point forward here. That's sometimes a nice way to end a post, is like possible paths forward. Not that I'm trying to write the conclusion here, but this post ended up sort of taking the rough structure of like the conditions of the problem, the nature of the problem, what a solution would look like, next steps or something like that. It's not great. Not too much of a tortured face. I think I was kind of focused, sort of stupid mouth open look a little bit, but that's okay. Next time I'll shave and put on a tie or something. All right, that's it. I'm done. So I don't know if you got any value out of this. I think I did, just by recording it. This commentary hasn't been super interesting to me. I think just recording it in the first place added just a little bit of like a Big Brother vibe that kept me on task, and I'm grateful for that. And I think it also spurred me into that conversational mode of ice breaking. So that was kind of fun and interesting. I'll probably do it again sometime.